I would say my journey started, I would say a little later than most. I grew up in Santa Ana, and in Santa Ana, it almost feels that you're living, kind of in your own little bubble, in your own little world, and some of the things that are going outside of Santa Ana don't really affect you. So I got my license when I was 16, and then things changed a bit. I started interacting with the police a little bit more. I remember getting pulled over for different things. So I was getting pulled over from like 16 all the way to 22. And then I'm a senior at UC Irvine, and there's a family party. So the cops come, the first car comes, the first officer, and he just politely says, "Hey, just lower the music and you guys are fine." Cool. We lower the music, he drives around. Within the minute, another patrol car comes. Very different tone. And now there's maybe 20 patrol cars outside this mobile home. About 50 officers. And like a signal goes, and they just get inside and start grabbing guys. And I was one of the guys they grabbed. They grabbed about 8 of my uncles, 3 of my cousins, and they roughed us up a little bit, and they took us in. And they took us in, and I was actually, again, this was my senior year at UC Irvine, and 6 days from there, I was leaving to Europe to go play soccer. They tell me that I have three felonies, and that I can't leave the country. When we were going through the trial, they said that I had, once my uncle was arrested, I came around the patrol car, and I tried to get my uncle freed, that I pushed an officer down, and that I fought another one off, and that I incited the riot, and that, right? Police officer goes in the stand, and he testifies to this, right? And here's a 22-year-old kid who was in the same courtroom, and literally just lie after lie after lie after lie. I'm an athlete, so I use anything like that to be. I'm a competitor. I'm very competitive, so I used it as motivation too. I was not very good at school, and I said, I'm gonna get myself educated. I'm gonna become something. I'm gonna become someone, so that one day, if I down the road when I meet this officer again, I can tell him, "Oh, you were wrong." And I think that's what motivated me to go my route and become a sociology major and study sociology and get my master's, and understand that it's bigger and there's more to it than just that, right? That this racism is embedded in our institutions, and it's embedded in our structures, and maybe the officer himself doesn't feel he's racist, or it's not racist at all, but the structure that gives him power to be an officer is rooted in racism. And you don't learn that from being in Santa Ana, just growing up in Santa Ana, right? It's a process, and it takes a while for you to fully understand things like that. And so at the time, no, you don't feel like you're a victim of racism. You just feel that you were in the wrong place, wrong time. We never really had, that conversation, the talk, where if a police officer comes, you need to do this. We didn't have that talk because we're recent immigrants. So our experience here was a little different than other people who have been here for a while. So we were very respectful all the time to police officers. Now, what do you tell the 5-year-old, the 7-year-old, the 10-year-old, the teenagers that were there? They saw that. They saw their dad being beat up. They saw their mom being pushed. What do you tell them about police officers then? So then the conversation changes, right? Like from there on out, we tell our cousins, we tell anybody in our family, that whenever a police officer comes, that it's just compliance. Whatever they tell you, you do. That the younger generation sometimes feels like, no, I'm gonna say this, I'm gonna do this, they can't do that to me, I know my rights. And the conversation just goes, your rights don't mean anything when you're in that situation. It's better for you to come home. Actually, I don't think anything surprised me about it, which is the scary part, right? So I see it, and all these feelings come back, right, from my experience. And now I have kids. Well, I have my team who they look for me for guidance, as a mentor, and they're looking at me and they're seeking, some sort of a insight or some sort of guidance, and I don't know what to tell them. I don't know what to tell them, what's right or what's wrong, right? Because I feel the need to be out there protesting, but I also know that my kids are brown bodies, and if they go out there and they protest, there's a good chance they're gonna end up in handcuffs. So what do you tell these kids? You want to make them feel safe. You want to make them feel like, empower them. But what can you tell them? Because I feel their anger and I feel their rage, and I know they've experienced similar things to what I've experienced. So how can I tell them not to experience that? And how can I tell them not to go out and well, obviously I don't tell them not to protest, but I tell them not to be violent, not to destroy property and things like that in that nature. But I'm also a sociologist, and I also know that radical change only happens when radical methods are taken. All I know is that I try my best to make sure that my athletes are safe, my athletes are well informed, and then my athletes can strive for a better future, and that's all we can do. Yeah, I hope that my daughter never has to experience it, and I work hard to hopefully she doesn't have to. There's a little bit of a light at the end of the tunnel, even going through struggle, because I don't think I'd be this successful if I didn't go through the struggle. But you could also say that if I didn't go through the struggle, maybe I could have been even more successful. So you never know what the right answer is, but I know that because of my struggle, when I do get to accomplish a goal, when I ended up graduating here, I was actually asked to be the commencement speaker for my graduating class, which I never thought, I'm not a good student, so I don't know how they would choose me. And that to me was just seeing my mom, right? It's just, and it made that moment so special because of everything that I went through. So I value that moment so much more, because it's easy to see me in my position, and see me in as a homeowner, as a father, as a professor, as a coach, as an employee of Cal State Fullerton. He made it. There's no racism. He made it, right? But if you knew everything I had to go through to get to this position. So I think highlighting stories like this and storytelling, there's power in it. And I've heard a couple of stories from my own student athletes where I hear their stories and I'm like, wow, right? Like, I went through some struggles, but it's nothing compared to this kid. And this kid is still here, and he's still standing on his own feet, and he's still working. So these stories, I think, can help shape people's ideologies and people's, just internal racism. Internal and a lot of the structural that we have. How I'm adding to this is I started my after school program, and we just talk to them about everything they can be. And I feel that if we're producing boys and girls who aspire to be greater, who aspire to get a higher education, who aspire to be something more in society, my boys and my girls are better equipped to tackle whatever is coming in front of them, right? Because they had a mentor or some guidance that prepared them to face, the structural racism, the institutional racism, the internal racism that people might have, and just to kind of, take the punches and keep going.